Thank you, John. And thank you for the Society for inviting me to speak today. It's my first time in Daytona Beach and had a little time yesterday to do some exploring and had a really nice time here. Um, Also, it's great to see some familiar faces. Like John said, he's a consultant to our board. Also, Dr. Tom Furman is here. He's a board member of the NBRC, so it's great to see him in the audience. Getting started today. First, today we're going to talk about the role and the function of the NBRC, talk about our credential maintenance program, and also discuss some updates that we're making to the credentialing system. First, want to talk about the who, how, and when of the NBRC. The NBRC was formed in 1960 by doctors, primarily pulmonologists and anesthesiologists that wanted to make sure that respiratory therapists were competent to do their job. The NBRC has four sponsoring organizations: the AARC, the American Association for Respiratory Care, the American Society for Anesthesiologists, excuse me, the American Thoracic Society, and the American College of Chest Physicians. Right now, the NBRC board consists of 30 members, represented by 15 respiratory therapists and 15 physicians. However, through attrition, our board will be reduced to 18 members, 9 respiratory therapists and 9 respiratory therapists. There's no timeline for when that will happen. Again, that will just come through attrition of board members retiring and leaving the board for other reasons. And the NBRC does also elect one public member to our board. The NBRC works very closely with the AARC and COARC. The NBRC is the credentialing board. We develop the credentialing examinations and award the credentials to practitioners. The AARC is your membership organization, and they advocate on behalf of the profession. And then COARC is the accrediting board for respiratory education programs. NBRC is accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. The NCCA was formed in 1977, and the NBRC is the only credentialing board that has maintained continuous accreditation since that time. The NCCA develops standards for voluntary credentialing boards like the NBRC. Being credentialed by or accredited by NCCA is like having the good housekeeping seal of approval. It means that we're doing things right in the credentialing world. Again, they establish the standards for credentialing boards like the NBRC, and they do that to help ensure the safety, welfare, and health of the public. All of the NBRC's exams are certified by the NCCA. We have to do that every 5 years, and this is one of the years that we're doing that. So we're currently filling out our application and applying for accreditation for all of our examinations. All of the NBRC or the CRT and the RRT credentials are used for licensing, are the basis of issuing licensings in all the states that require a license. The only state that doesn't require a license to practice is Alaska. There's currently only 6 states that require the RRT to get a license. There is a state that's in the process of updating their rules and laws to require a license, and that's Michigan. And then as you know, to be employed, you also have to have either the CRT or the RRT credential. These are the credentials that the NBRC awards. To earn the CRT credential, you have to pass our therapist multiple choice examination at the minimum of the low cut. If you pass that examination at the high cut, that makes you eligible for our clinical simulation exam. And then passing that examination earns you the RRT credential. The other credentials there are our specialty examinations that you're eligible for after you earn either the CRT or the RRT credential. The NBRC tests about 25,000 candidates annually. In 2020, due to the pandemic, we did offer live remote proctoring for our therapist multiple choice and clinical simulation examination. That was done because many of the test centers that PSI administers our exams at were closed, obviously due to the pandemic. That's still an option for those examinations. And then in January of this year, the board did approve giving all of the examinations by live remote proctor, so candidates can use their own equipment in their own home or other, facility to take those examinations. About 20% of candidates choose to take the exams by live remote proctor now. We also post all of our exam pass rates on our website. So if you're interested in the exam pass rates on an annual basis, you can go to our website and go to our document library, and you can look at that information for all of our exams. To date, the NBRC has awarded over 500,000 credentials to about 275,000 individuals. NBRC uses this four-step process when we develop examinations. The process to develop a new credentialing program starts when one of our credentialing or when one of our sponsoring organizations request that a new credentialing program be developed. Most recently, the AARC did request a pulmonary education exam be developed, so we'll be providing a report to them shortly in regards to the outcome of these steps. Step number 3, create or conduct a job analysis. We do that every 5 years for all of our existing exam programs, and that's when we would be updating the content on the exams to make sure that it's reflecting the current practice. Now, just moving on to the credential maintenance program. Once a practitioner earns a credential, their credential is valid for a 5-year credentialing cycle, and they maintain that through the credential maintenance program. There are 3 ways to participate in the credential maintenance program. Option 1 is to take assessments and document up to 30 hours of continuing education. Option 2 is to earn a new credential, which resets all of your credential expirations for a new 5-year cycle. And then option 3 is to take the exams for the highest credential that you hold. The credential maintenance program was implemented originally in July of 2002. And then in January of 2020, we added an assessment component to that. That is one of the things that the NCCA required of all of their credentialing or all of their organizations that they accredited to foster the lifelong learning process. So again, we did add those assessments. The content of the assessments does focus on competencies that put the public at risk and that change rapidly. And to encourage that lifelong learning, we do provide a reference for each assessment on the item, so you do have a resource that you can go to if there's a topic that you're interested in knowing more about. And then we created a dashboard that practitioners can go to, not only to access the assessments, but just see where they are in their 5-year cycle of the assessments and where they are and how many CEUs they may have to submit in their 5th year, because for the assessments, your performance on those, that's going to determine how many CEUs you owe in your last year of your credentialing cycle. So some details about the credential maintenance program. Just like items on the actual credentialing exam, items on the assessment are developed by a panel of respiratory therapists and physicians. We post the assessments out there quarterly. Assessments for the RTs are posted quarterly with 10 items in each assessment set. Specialty credential assessments have 5 items each. We specifically developed the assessments to be accessible on a mobile phone or tablet. That way, if you only have a few minutes, well, actually you need at least 5 minutes because that's the time limit to take the assessments. So you can take them one at a time, or you can sit down and take the whole quarter's assessments. It's really up to you and how much time you have available. You are able to use resources while you take the assessments. But we do ask that you work alone and you work independently because your coworkers and your peers are going to be taking those same assessments. And we do want them to be assessed in their continued competency as well. We do capture copy and print attempts. So if you do try to take a screenshot or try to print your screen when you're taking those assessments, you will get a warning on the screen letting you know that you're not supposed to be doing that. And if you do that too many times, you'll get a warning notice from our office. Again, because that is for your information only. Those items are copyrighted just like the items on a credentialing examination. And we're really happy to announce that we have been approved to award CRCE credit for participation in the assessments. So individuals holding the CRT or RRT credential that complete 90% of the assessments in a calendar year can get 6 CRCE credits, and specialty credential holders will earn 3 CRCE credits. The fee for the credential maintenance program is not changing due to this. It's still $125 over your 5-year credentialing cycle, and you can pay that in $25 installments in each year of your cycle. If you don't make a payment in a certain year, you can make up for that in the final year of your credentialing cycle. If you're a lifetime credential holder and you want to opt in to take the assessments so you can get your CRCE credits for participation, you can do that through your practitioner portal, and your credential will stay in lifelong status. So opting in to do that doesn't change your status in regards to being a lifelong credential holder. The next few screens, we're just going to walk through what the dashboard looks like, how to take an assessment. This is what you'll see once you log into the practitioner portal where you start taking the assessments. This is also where you would log in to change your address, update your email address, apply for additional examinations. If you need a letter of verification sent to your state licensing board or maybe to your employer, maybe you just want to have one for yourself, you could do that from here. This is where you would go to pay your annual $25 payments. You could order a replacement certificate and wallet card from here as well. We also tell you here, based on your performance on the assessments, how many CEUs that are going to likely be due when your credential expires. Again, your performance on the assessments, that is going to tell you how many CEUs are due to the NBRC. The assessment participation is optional. You don't have to take the assessments, but we do encourage you to do that because it is a value for lifelong learning. However, if you don't choose to participate or if you don't do well on the assessments, you would appear in the red zone on the gauge here, and 30 CEUs would be required for you to maintain your credential. If you do okay on the assessments, you would be in the yellow zone, and 15 CEUs would be required to update your credential. And if you perform well on the assessments, you would perform in the green zone, and 0 CEUs would be due to the NBRC to update your credential. And I don't have an updated screenshot, but on the screen where the purple text that says submit feedback is, that's been updated with another gauge that will show you where you are in your participation to earn your CRCE credits. So you can track that activity on this screen as well. Before you start an assessment, we do ask that you have to actually agree to our terms and conditions, basically, again, saying that you're not going to share this information because those items are copyrighted. And we also want you to know that there is a 5-minute time limit, so that you do need to set that amount of time before you begin. Also, we want to make sure you know you need a strong internet connection, because if you are taking an assessment question and you lose internet connection, you don't have the chance to take that question again, and it will be marked as unanswered, and you won't get credit for that question. This is a sample assessment item. If you've taken a credentialing exam recently, it should look pretty familiar to you. There is the time limit at the top of the screen. That does display in red once you get to the 1 minute mark, just as a visual to you, so you know that you need to start wrapping that up. To make your selection, you just click on the letter for your answer and hit submit. Before you find out if you got the question right or wrong, we do want your feedback. We want to know how confident you are about your response. And we want to know that because if a lot of practitioners are very confident about their answer, but they get the answer wrong, it indicates there could be a flaw in that item. And we would want the panel to look at that before we continue to use that item in the assessments. And then we want to know how relevant you feel that item is to the credential. And for that same reason, if it's not relevant to your credential, then we may consider not continuing to use that item on the assessments. And then after you answer those questions, we'll give you feedback. We will let you know if you got the question right or wrong. We'll also give you an explanation for every option to the question, letting you know why that option was right or wrong. And also, if you've taken a self-assessment exam with us, you'll also learn if that particular response was harmful to the patient. You'll also find out if it was maybe not the best option, if it was the best option, or if it was just correct. We also post peer performance. So once you finish the item, I think at the end of the second quarter after an assessment is released, we'll go back in and we'll let you know the percentage of peers that got the question right. So if you're highly competitive and you want to see how you did compared to the rest of the people that took the question, go back in there and see how you did compare to your group of peers. And then this is where you would go in to review those questions. That's where you would find the peer performance. That's also where you would go to look to see where the references are for all of the items. And although you cannot screenshot and print the exam items, we do have a way that once you go into that item, you can email and print out the references. So if you would like to do more research on a particular item, you will have access to the references that you can print out and look at. Now I just want to talk about a few things that the NBRC is doing to support you and the respiratory community. Our Choose to Give campaign, we actually started this campaign in 2020 as our Choose One campaign, and this is the NBRC's social purpose, how we like to give back to the community. This is through our annual credential maintenance payment. Credentialed practitioners, that $25 payment that is made to the NBRC either for credential maintenance or just to support the NBRC. So when that payment is made, the practitioners can elect to designate a portion of that fee. And this year, that fee is going to support the long-term recruitment, retention, and advancement of respiratory therapists. And already this year, as part of that campaign, the NBRC is giving more than $2 million in scholarships to fund accredited respiratory care programs. So each of the 450 COARC accredited programs are getting $5,000 to use to scholarships, and those funds will be distributed to them later this year. In addition, the NBRC has supported the Coalition for Baccalaureate and Graduate Respiratory Therapy Education programs with two $10,000 postgraduate scholarships, and they've already received those scholarship funds. NBRC also supports the Lambda Beta Society scholarships. So if there are any students in here that are looking for some free money to help them with their education, they can apply for these scholarships. There's individual programs don't have to have a chapter, a Lambda Beta chapter to qualify. As you can see, there's quite a bit of money available through these scholarships. In addition to the scholarships, the awards also include $750 in travel funds and a full registration to the current year's AARC Congress. The deadline to apply for these scholarships is May 31st. So if you are interested or you know somebody that might be interested, please get this information to them right away. I also know that there's not very many students that apply for these scholarships, so there is a lot of opportunity. So if there's interest in this, you can go to lambdabeta.org for more information and to fill out the applications and checklists. The NBRC also supports these American Respiratory Care Foundation Awards. There's more information at arcfoundations.org, and I believe the deadline for these awards is June 1, so that is also fast approaching. So if there's any interest in these awards, go to that website sooner than later to get all of the information about that. Now moving on to morerts.com. So the NBRC has joined forces with the AARC and COARC to increase recognition of the difference that respiratory make in patient lives and the growing need for more respiratory therapists through this website, morerts.com. This is a multi-year national campaign to raise public awareness for the value of respiratory care profession, to recruit and retain more respiratory therapists, and also to identify, shape, and inspire new leadership in the profession. This is a page of the website where respiratory therapists and physicians can share their inspiring stories about why they became a respiratory therapist. We'll be adding a component to this later this year where patients can add stories about a respiratory therapist that treated them. And this is where if you have an inspiring story that you would like to share, and we're always looking for new stories. So if you have a story you would like to share, please go here. Also, there's ways here listed that you can help share the story, share the need for more respiratory therapists. If you haven't been to morerts.com, I would really encourage you to go there, listen to these stories, and go there often because we'll be, continually updating and posting new information here. We'll also be adding mini campaigns here. This was recently posted here about advancing your career, becoming a respiratory care educator, because in addition to needing more respiratory therapists at the bedside, more respiratory therapists are needed in education. And more, like I said, more mini campaigns will be posted here. Also, anything that is on the morerts.com, you're free to share with any organization. You don't have to ask permission to do that. Also, we know it takes more than a website to spread the word about this, but this is where the foundation of the information is going to be posted, but there will be other ways that NBRC, AARC, and COARC will be sharing information. We know there's a lot of other media outlets. We've got to reach people through the means that they're using, especially the younger generations, TikTok, Snapchat, things like that. So look here for information about how we're doing that. And like I said, check back often because we will continually be updating information at morerts.com. Some NBRC specific things that we want you to know about. We will be updating content for 2 of our examination programs. The pulmonary function technologist exam, we have recently completed a job analysis for that. New content will start in September of this year. We have already posted the new content outlines for that program. We've also posted a new free practice examination, and there is a new self-assessment exam that's available to purchase for that examination as well. And then in September of next year, we will be testing for new content on the sleep disorder specialty examination, and we will share the results of the job analysis we did for that later this year. And then in April of next year, the new content outlines, new free practice examination, and new self-assessment exams will be available for you to find. We launched digital badges next year. If you're not sure what that is, that's a icon that you can add to your email signature or to your social media. When someone clicks on that, they see an image that looks like what's on the screen. It shows your credentials, the date they were earned, the date they expire, if that's applicable, and then your registry number. That is considered primary source verification. Um, you get that when you pay your annual fee or when you earn a credential, and it is available to you for either the year that you've paid your fee or throughout the year that you earned your credential. The Message Center, this is available in the practitioner portal, and this is where we'll post important information about your exam application, your credential maintenance, any policy updates that the NBRC is making. We also email and mail letters to you about that information, but this is a place where it will live historically. So it's a place where you can always go back to look at if you've lost that information or deleted those emails. Live chat, this is something else that we launched last year. It's available on all of the pages of the NBRC's website, including that practitioner portal. So if you're trying to document your CEUs and you don't know how many CEUs the NBRC accepts for PALS, and you'd like to get that question answered so you can finish up what you're doing, you can chat with us about that. You should get your answer, immediately after you put that question into us. Our customer care team responds to that. We don't use a chat box, so you should get a specific answer to any question that you use through the chat. We've gotten a lot of great feedback about our chat. It is available Monday through Friday during business hours. During off business hours, you can, there's an option for you to send an email to us, and we respond to those during the next business day. Follow us on social media. I just realized there's a difference between liking and following on social media. So if you don't do both, please do that. It's important to us. We'd like to get the both liking and following counts up. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, and we're most recently on Instagram. Those are our handles there. These are all the ways that you can contact us. Our staff is here to help. I guess one thing I will say about social media, it's great that there's these, respiratory care groups that you can talk to about your credentialing program issues with. But you've worked really hard for your credentials, and you've prepared really hard for your exams. And if you have questions about your credential expiring, please contact the NBRC about that. We want you to have the right information about what to do when your credential expires, and about your exam eligibility. So please contact us about those important questions. We don't want you to lose your credentials because you've gotten the wrong information through one of those other groups. We are here to help you. We're eager to help you, and we want to help you because, like I said, you have worked really hard for those credentials. You spent a lot of money on your education. So contact us so we can help you with those questions. And then a couple of things before I finish in regards to your credentials and maintaining them that might help you ensure that you do keep them current is make sure that you keep your address and your email address current with the NBRC. In the last year of your credentialing cycle, we will send you 5 notices letting you know that your credential is going to expire. At least 3 of those notices will go to you by letter. I think 2 of those notices go to you by email. But if you don't keep that information current with us, obviously you're not going to get that information. Also, if you're a student, as you're going through the program, you're probably using your student email address. Once you graduate, I would encourage you to change your email address to your personal email address, because at some point you're not going to have access to that student email address anymore. So make sure you keep your address and email address current with us so you can get our notices. And then also remember that your state licensing board and NBRC, we don't share your CEU information. When we hear from practitioners whose credentials have expired, that's usually the #1 reason that they think that they've documented their CEUs with us, because they've done it with their state licensing board, and they either think that they've done it with us or that their state licensing board has shared that with us. Also, I think Florida uses CE Broker, and sometimes we hear that too. They think that CE Broker shares that information with the NBRC, and they don't. So just remember, you have to do it separately with the NBRC. We will remind you to do it, but you have to keep us up to date with your email address and your mailing address. And then just another suggestion, know when your credential expires. It's on the certificate and wallet card that is sent to you after you pass an examination. 5 years is a long time away. Maybe when you get that package, get your smartphone out, put a reminder in there annually on your credential date to enter your CEUs. You can recertify 6 months before your credential expires. Maybe put a note in there, 4 years and 6 months from your credential date to log into the NBRC and recertify now. There's just some helpful tips that might help you keep your credential from expiring. And then finally, if you've been interested in what the NBRC does, getting involved in the NBRC, being an item writer is a great way to start. We're always looking for good items that could potentially be on examinations. We have an item writing guide and an item writing video on our website at nbrc.org. It is in our document library. So if you review that information and it's something that you think you're interested in doing, you can email us at info@nbrc.org, and then we can get some information to you about the next steps in that. And we do pay a fee for any item that a committee accepts. So if that's of interest to you, we'd love to hear from you. And that wraps up my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that somebody might have about what I talked about today or the NBRC in general. Any questions? Yes.